Welcome to Charter California Edition. My name is Brad Pomerance. Our guest, Mike Morrell, he's a member of the California State Assembly. He is home on recess, and I want to speak with you, sir, about this last, is it called a session when you're in the middle of 1 year? Is that the session?
That's exactly what it's called.
Okay, so how did this session go?
Well, you know, there was some wins and there were some losses.
Right.
The good news is for business owners, with the Chamber's help, we killed about 37 job killer bills. But some of the things that were challenging for me, we live in a challenging state. Our economy still has the highest unemployment rate. Right. Unfunded liabilities, meaning pensions and retirements, are pushing $500 billion. Reports say that they need to earn an average of about 12% return for the next 14 years to be fully funded. It's probably not going to happen.
But let me ask you about that, sir, because it seemed as if a couple of years ago there was some momentum behind bona fide pension reform. And what happened was there was some tinkering on the margins, but we didn't see that bona fide pension reform.
The pension reform that they did get is for people going forward. But solving the problem of the unfunded liability today is still huge. That's why you see cities like Stockton and San Bernardino going bankrupt. So with these problems, you know, we have more than just economic challenges. We have challenges in education. We're not turning out our students in the STEM programs, which is science, technology, engineering, and math. We've dropped to 44th in America and 46th overall.
Although, are you feeling more bullish given that we will see more money flowing to K-12, given the passage of Prop 30, given the economy's improving?
Well, you'd hope so. Okay. You know, remember the lottery was supposed to improve education too.
I understand.
So I'm sort of cautiously optimistic. Okay. But here, I guess here's the point I'm trying to say.
Please, sir.
I think this would be interesting for your audience. In spite of these huge challenges we have to our state, losing jobs to Texas and those types of things, and with education, my friends on the other side of the aisle sponsored a bill. It was one of their headline bills for the year. It was AB 1266, where they allow our children as young as elementary school to be able to use the same locker and shower facilities together. Right.
As I understand it, what the bill says is that a child can select their chosen gender, and as a result, if they choose the opposite gender from which they were born, they can play on those sports teams, they can use those locker facilities. I wanted to ask you, sir, if that bill was a solution seeking a problem. Because, I mean, I'm not aware that there is a significant issue with kids that may have gender disorder demanding or seeking to be on the other's team.
One of the things I wanted to bring it up, and as I spoke to you earlier, I think it was one of the main responses that we got at our assembly office, where parents, you know, moms are afraid, dads are afraid, not because of the gender thing. It's just, you know, teenage boys wanting to be teenage boys. So they're worried about their daughter's privacy. It's inappropriate, and people are appalled that this is going on in education when we have such failing test scores.
But I guess what I'm wondering is, how did a bill like this percolate to the surface? It just seems odd to me. This is not even a gay rights bill, which, and I know gay rights is on the minds of a lot of Americans. Do you know? I just...
No, you know, you have to wonder if maybe people have their mindset is, you know, this is very inappropriate. It doesn't belong anywhere, but especially not in education. We need to be teaching our kids. But I'm amazed. It was a bill, just, you know, to make a distinction. Democrats, it was sponsored and passed by them, and I'm surprised our governor signed it.
And I must say, and I'm a neutral journalist, I was surprised as well. And the reason I was surprised is if you look at a lot of the bills he signed and vetoed. For example, there was a bill that was proposed that would allow non-citizens to serve on juries. He vetoed that bill. And so it seemed as if this was the type of bill that, you know, was a little bit off the beaten path, you know, and yet he did move forward and sign it. I understand that some of your colleagues, I believe Shannon Grove may be one of them, who's an assemblywoman, is looking to bring an initiative to have this bill reversed, I guess you could say. What's your sense? I mean, what do you think your constituents would think?
Well, I tell you, we received about 115 letters, and
which is a lot.
Which is a lot.
It's a lot. I mean, I understand for every one communication,
there's probably 100 more.
Exactly.
The same way.
Exactly.
And about 4 people were for this bill, but the other ones were adamantly opposed, and they were mad. And the reason why it hit me is a number of those people assume maybe I did it because they say, what are you guys doing and why are you passing stuff like this in the legislature? So I made sure all those letters were answered, that it was not the Republicans, it was the Democrats. And you know, I think it speaks about the character of Governor Brown at the end of the day.
Although, wouldn't you say, you know, and I just want to push you a little bit on this. When it comes to the business side of the equation, it feels as if, and I'm just kind of looking at what the chambers of commerce say and what some of the pro-business groups say, that they've been generally pleased with the relative direction of Governor Brown. Is that fair?
You know, it's fair, but not when we continue to drop in rankings. You know, I'm on the streets. I'm in the trenches.
Literally.
Literally.
You talk to constituents.
I'm regularly speaking to our business community, manufacturers especially. I can think of one in particular. They have about 1,200 employees. And they have, they want to recruit within California or America because they're patriotic, but they're having difficulty finding people in those STEM programs. And so they're having to go outside of America to recruit.
And I do want to talk, though, about the kind of sense of business friendliness. I recently, I pulled out my notebook because CNBC does this yearly ranking of top states with which to do business. And California, you know, it's heartbreaking, comes in at 47th. And the cost of doing business in California, 50 out of 50. That's a mantra that we've heard for quite some time, that there are real challenges. And the irony to that, if I may say, sir, is that with regard to access to capital, California comes in first.
Well, you know, it's funny you say that, but they're investing their money out of state, a lot of business owners. It's why Governor Rick Perry has an office in California.
Which is so maddening.
You know, it really is.
So maddening.
But I had the fortune to be able to talk to him about a week ago, and he said he loves coming here to hunt.
I bet he does.
And when he says coming here to hunt, he means for businesses. But you know, I just read a book, How Money is Walking to Texas out of California, Arizona, Utah,
Yet the
Nevada,
governor
and
has
Washington.
said that he wants regulatory reform.
You know, saying it and doing it, he has the power to veto, but he has also signed a tremendous amount of regulatory bill.
What about CEQA? Because that is one area where he keeps talking about reform. We've got some reform.
You know, forgive me, but this is a fact, and this has been all talk. And we have worked hard, us as the Republicans. We fought at the end of the session. We were willing to give away our firstborn child in some ways.
And is it your firstborn clerking for the Supreme Court?
He just flew into town last night.
He's back,
he got
done?
married.
Okay, congratulations.
And he's taking another job in Houston starting December 3rd. But anyway, so we offered up as many things as we could to improve, to reform CEQA by maybe between 10 and 12%. We had cut a deal. We had a gentleman's agreement, and we got the rug.
So what about for next session, you know, the coming 2014?
You know what? We got beat up pretty bad at it. We said, we'll vote on this bill if you guys give us this. So in good faith, we did. And when it came to that other bill, they yanked it right out from underneath
We're
us.
about to speak with Wendy McCammack, who is a councilwoman in San Bernardino, candidate for mayor. You represent significant portions of San Bernardino.
68%.
Yet you talk to your friends in San Bernardino. How's it going?
San Bernardino, first of all, one thing that I didn't know before, because I just inherited San Bernardino through redistricting, I love the people in San Bernardino, and I'll tell you why. They care about their city.
They do.
We've been having town halls. I mean, 3 to 4 times as many people show up in San Bernardino than they do other towns.
How interesting.
And they want to know, Mike, you know, many of them were born and raised there or lived there 30 years, and they said, this is not the city it once was. What do we do? What do we do? What do we do? And so I've been being pulled into that city, and at first I was a little bit hesitant with all the problems going on, but they're just looking for people.
I can imagine.
They're looking for honest people to return San Bernardino.
His name is Mike Morrell, member of the California State Assembly. Like I said, when we come back, we'll be speaking with Wendy McCammack. She is an elected official there. I'm Brad Pomerance. It's Charter California Edition.
Which state did the Tax Foundation deem the most tax-friendly state for business? Nevada, South Dakota, Texas, or Wyoming? The Tax Foundation's 2014 State Business Tax Climate Index found Wyoming to be the most tax-friendly state for business. California was ranked 48.
Welcome back. It's Charter California Edition. I'm Brad Pomerance. Our guest, Wendy McCammack, councilwoman in San Bernardino, leading candidate for mayor of that city. We just spoke with Mike Morrell, an assembly member who represents significant portions of the city of San Bernardino, and he told me that your business, called Express Printing Signs and Tees, he awarded you a top small business award.
It was a great honor.
I can imagine.
It was a great honor. And several of the cities in his district had some similar awards, so it was great to see all the small business people, which pretty much make the employers.
No doubt. I need to list a few names for you.
Okay.
Jerry Eves, Valerie Pope Ludlam, Edna Greddy, Bill Postmus, Paul Bion, Neil Deary, Chaz Kelly, and Robert Jenkins. All those folks are elected officials in either the city or the county of San Bernardino. They all have either been indicted and or convicted of criminal offenses. And in fact, Chaz Kelly recently pled guilty to a criminal offense, and Robert Jenkins, in this headline from the LA Times, is under indictment for a criminal offense. Ma'am, you are not at all implicated in any wrongdoing, but what is going on in San Bernardino? It's got to be devastating.
In terms of the county officials, I think money is the means to the end, so to speak. In terms of city council members, I can tell you that some of those names that you've mentioned, based on the way the charter reads in terms of council members, they earn $50 a month.
Right, which is hugely problematic in my mind. I try to be neutral.
But I do too.
Right, and I will say that, San Bernardino, 200,000 people, major city in our state, currently bankrupt. I mean, you get what you pay for. And
in a way, I believe that's true, but it also comes to character, in my mind. If you go into public office with ethics and a morality that allows you to put your head on the pillow at night, you're going to carry that through, unless there are things that are just too tempting.
But look what happened with Chaz Kelly, for example. As we understand it, he worked for Neil Deary. Neil Deary, a supervisor in San Bernardino County, wound up pleading guilty to a felony dealing with campaign violations. Neil Deary wound up losing his seat. Chaz Kelly worked for Neil Deary. When Neil Deary leaves office, Chaz Kelly has no job. And what happens? He winds up using campaign funds to live.
Except, according to the indictment, he's been doing that since 2008.
When Neil Deary was still in office.
And, I don't know their personal finances. All I know is that when campaign contributors give you money, you spend it on the campaign.
But here's what's so frustrating. We are in Riverside today.
Yes.
Riverside is 20 minutes away from San Bernardino.
Yes.
And yet, the culture in Riverside is not this kind of corrupt Wild West. But in San Bernardino, and I know you're trying to clean it up, I don't want to tar you with what's happening there.
And I appreciate that.
But it's just, it's mind-boggling. I mean, this is San Bernardino. It was an all-American city in 1977. I'm not even from San Bernardino. My eyes well up talking about it because it's your city.
It is my
city.
And really, I think what has happened over the years is the taxpayers have just been forgotten or sacrificed. And I have never, ever cast a vote that it was not on behalf of the taxpayer or in support of the taxpayers. As an example, the recall, in my opinion, is all about the deal, the means to the end.
What Ms. McCammack is referencing is, while you're running for mayor and you are a leading candidate, there's a recall campaign going against you and 2 other council members. I mean, it's bizarre. And in the background is the bankruptcy, which begs the question, why would you ever want to be mayor? But I won't go there.
Well, to keep on course, first of all, what people forget is everything that people own in this city or have invested in this city, my husband and I are the same. So whatever happens good to everybody happens good to us. Whatever happens bad to everybody happens bad to us. So we have as much a vested interest and a stake in this.
I know, I know recently I spoke with Bob Dutton, former state senator running for assessor for the county. He, as I understand, was instrumental in brokering a deal between the internet retailers, specifically Amazon, and the state, to allow them to charge state sales tax. But as part of the deal, there's now an Amazon distribution center in San Bernardino.
Right.
That's got to be a bright light.
It's a very bright light. As a matter of fact, since I was elected in 2000, the city has added 8,000 new jobs.
Okay.
There are approximately 6,000 to 8,000 new jobs, additional new jobs in the hopper. Thanks to Hillwood Development, the Pro companies, thanks to the efforts at the airbase, not in terms of passenger carriers,
yes, no, we know that,
but in terms of warehouse and cargo carrying type of functions. Those kinds of things bring tax base. They bring property tax base. They get it out of the hands of the government, who pays no property taxes. You get it into private hands.
Oh, that's interesting, right?
Those things are good for the city. More of that has to occur, but we can't be tainted with this kind of activity, with these kinds of headlines. So
you have the bankruptcy, you have the criminal indictments.
Let's not forget about the fact that the mayor's name was on an FBI raid and search warrant at the airport.
Oh God.
No, he hasn't been charged or indicted. But I don't. I mean, if I had an FBI search warrant come to my business, I'd be very worried.
You know what was so remarkable to me, and I don't mind saying this, on camera. I recently was honored with moderating a debate in which you were a candidate. There were at that point 11
yes, sir.
candidates. 10 showed up. One of the candidates is no longer on the ballot because she didn't pay her filing fee. She's a write-in candidate now.
Check. Yeah.
Right, she bounced a check. Mr. Kelly was present.
Yes.
And he had already been working with the FBI.
Wearing a wire.
Wearing a wire. So he's in this debate, participating, knowing that it was highly unlikely he would ever be able to become mayor because he was working with the FBI. I mean, it's like you can't write this material. I mean, literally, you cannot write this material.
We need to write a book.
Yeah, we need to.
You and I both need to write a book.
And I remember you were here last month, and I kind of commented, Mr. Kelly isn't joining us for an interview. I wonder why.
And I had no clue.
And now we know why. I mean, it's okay. So, how's it going? How's the bankruptcy going? What's going on? Give us an update.
The good thing about the bankruptcy is that the judge found us eligible.
Right, which is important.
It's very important.
Right.
And now we need to reconstruct and then reorganize and restructure the debt. Every municipality has debt. Every single one. Nobody pays cash for everything.
No, we know that.
Not even private people pay cash for everything for the most part. So restructuring that debt will, I think, be instrumental in helping us get back on our feet. We have wonderful cash flow at this point.
Do you?
We do.
Why? Because
we've cut so much.
Oh, I see.
But we've cut mostly in public safety.
Which is hard.
It's horrific.
And I remember at the debate you mentioned to me that your business, I believe, did you say your business had been a victim of crime?
Many times.
Yeah.
Many times. And I just got off the phone on the way here with a gentleman who was trying to build a building in San Bernardino and wants to build another one, but tells me of all the horrific stories that he deals with building a new building. That has to stop.
Is this because of kind of business-friendly, or the lack of business-friendly? Yeah.
And B, what he calls a ghetto behind his new building that he built in terms of multifamily units. And he's right. I plan on fixing that as well.
Yeah, right. So why are you so committed to becoming the mayor? I mean, look, it'd be very easy to say, I'm done. I won a small business award. My business is going well. Why?
Well, if you run for office for the right reason in the first place, you're not done until it's fixed.
Right.
Unless it's perfect when you walk in the door.
Right.
But it's not perfect, and it wasn't perfect. And there are things to fix. And I look at the alternatives as to who might fill that seat, and I just don't see them as qualified or as committed.
So tell me, you're walking precincts, you're talking to voters. What are they saying?
They're mixed in terms of, you must be part of the problem.
Right, you face a challenge.
You must be part of the problem. And then when I explained that I was a no vote on many critical issues, the lone no vote in many cases, they go, oh. And as an example, I've had people tell me, if the mayor had listened to Wendy in the first place, maybe you wouldn't be in bankruptcy. I don't know that that's necessarily so, but
okay.
That's the way.
Please come back. Her name is Wendy McCammack. She is a councilwoman in San Bernardino, a leading candidate for mayor of that fair city. My name is Brad Pomerance. It's Charter California Edition.
When Detroit, Michigan filed for bankruptcy protection, the size of the municipality's estate was estimated at what level? $3 billion, $8 billion, $13 billion, or $18 billion. Detroit's bankruptcy estate has been estimated at $18 billion.
It's Charter California Edition. I'm Brad Pomerance, and our guest today is Mike Ramos. He is the district attorney for San Bernardino County. And sir, I was stunned when you told me that on a yearly basis, over 2,000 peace officers are victims of crimes just in San Bernardino County.
Yeah, just in San Bernardino County alone, in the last 3 years, it's been over 6,000 crimes against peace officers. But in 2012, we had 2,300. The scary part, 600 of those were felonies. And, of course, the worst of the worst is like Deputy McKay, who lost his life. And, of course, now we have officers.
That's the Christopher Dorner
incident.
And
now we're having officers in the middle of the day. Their marked vehicles and patrol vehicles are being shot at. So it's getting to be a horrible place out there to be a peace officer.
What's interesting though, sir, is that when you tell me those stories, I think to myself, terrible, tragic, unacceptable, but it's part of the job.
Yeah.
But it really isn't.
But see, and that's
it really shouldn't be.
And you're so right. Too many people think because you put a badge on and a bulletproof vest in your uniform that, hey, people have the right to spit at you, punch you, threaten you and your family.
Right.
And we weren't doing a good enough job. That's why we created this Crimes Against Peace Officers
Yes,
unit.
let's talk about that. That's the breaking news, if I may say.
Yeah.
You do have a special division now.
We do.
It's a prosecution unit.
Yes.
Within the DA's office. And so what pushed you toward that paradigm?
Well, I was sitting at the funeral of Deputy McKay right before, and I said to my staff, we need to do a better job of protecting our partners that assist us in seeking justice. So we looked around not only the state, the country. Dade County, Miami, Florida, had one of the top units in the nation. So my staff looked at it, we modeled it, we even tweaked it and added some more victims' rights issues for our officers.
And I want to ask you about victims' rights because I think it's fair to say that when you think of an average citizen, victim rights services are available.
Right.
But when we think about an officer who may be a victim of a crime, they're used to it.
Right.
They know how to handle it. They'll go. The department will give them a psychologist. They'll be fine.
And that's where we dropped the ball. We needed to start treating them like true victims because they are being victimized. They do have their own families. They do have stressful issues with people attacking them. So we've changed that. They now get letters like any other victim. We now give them victim services. So it's a big way and a change in the way we're doing business.
Charging decisions?
Yes.
Because my guess is that I would presume many of these criminal acts against the peace officers occur in the context of other crimes.
Right.
And I have to think that the other crime becomes the primary focus, and then the attack winds up getting pled out or dropped to a misdemeanor. Are you looking at changing that tableau, the way that these crimes are approached?
Absolutely, that's part of the protocol. Too many times we were dismissing the count against the peace officer, and I'm saying, why are we doing that? They're putting their lives on the line for us. Let's make sure that we charge that count, and if it's a wobbler between a felony and a misdemeanor, we can prove it, we're going to file the felony.
What does the sheriff think?
The sheriff,
in San Bernardino County, your counterpart.
The sheriff loves it.
He does.
Since the AB 109 and realignment, the inmates now are becoming more violent. There's been a 50% increase on assaults on our deputy sheriffs in jail. So
really?
yes, because of the type of prisoners we're having now in our local jails.
Right, because you now have, well, they're lower level prisoners in the context of state prisons, but they're higher level jailed inmates in the context of counties. We have to talk about realignment.
Yes.
Because since the last time we spoke, the U.S. Supreme Court denied Governor Brown's request for a stay. Just to remind our viewers, a federal court over the summer demanded that the state contract its prison population by about 10,000, waiving all state laws.
Yeah.
I mean, they said that. We're waiving all state laws so
Right.
you are able to decrease that prison population.
That's a scary proposition, and I give credit to Governor Brown because he even realizes now the people that are left in prison are your serious and violent felons, so we got to find a place for them. And he recently said we're going to keep a local prison in the Inland Empire open, Norco.
Let's talk about that, because
Sure.
that I think is at some level breaking news. Norco prison was all but shuttered.
It was. It's an older facility, and it was part of the prison realignment and reduction of prisons.
Right.
And they were about ready to close the doors, and we need the space.
So there's going to be revamped.
We're going to put those prisoners in there. He's also looking at private prisons.
Right.
But to be staffed by correctional officers, trained correctional officers.
Will that save money? Because the challenge with private prisons is they're so darn expensive.
I think it's going to save money because you're utilizing all the correctional officers that are already in place for the state.
Now, if I'm correct, San Bernardino is on the verge of opening a new jail?
Yes, in Adelanto. We are very fortunate. I think it's going to be next year in 2014.
Oh, so it's not this year?
No, I mean it's
not this
basically complete.
Year.
It's not this calendar year, and then we still have to staff it. It's a budgetary issue. So.
And the reason I ask you about that is it possible that by opening that jail, you can help the state relieve its pressure? Because instead of, for example, Governor Brown sending a prisoner out of state or to a private prison, if you have the bed space, which I don't know if you will, can you take that inmate from the state?
I wish we could, but we don't have the bed space. Wow. We need them for our inmates now.
You're already overcrowded.
We are overcrowded.
So I was speaking with Stan Sniff, who's the sheriff of Riverside County, and we were discussing the question of whether there truly will be an early release of state prisoners. I think that term is thrown around very loosely.
Sure.
And as I understand it, we really haven't seen an early release of a state prisoner since 109.
That's true.
In the truest sense.
Yes.
But when you look at the analysis of the 9,600 prisoners that need to leave state prisons, what I have seen, and I mentioned this to Mr. Sniff, is that 1,000 at this stage probably will need to be early released. When you consider that term early release.
At least 1,000 will be early released.
So I want your sense on that. How do we handle those 1,000?
Yeah.
Do they remain on a probation parole status?
Right.
What do we do with them?
Well, you would hope they'd remain on a parole status, at a minimum probation status. The scary part is those that are released with no tail, no probation, nobody overseeing who these folks are. I truly believe that this governor would make sure that somebody is watching these people, especially those thousands that you're talking about that are going to be early released.
As I understand it, though, under AB 109, there really isn't post-release probation anymore under the state. It goes to the counties. Am I saying that right?
It goes to the county.
Right.
And even with our local state prisoners now, the nonviolent, non-serious, non-sex, if you don't do a split sentence and they just go into jail, when they're out, they're out. There's no
That's
supervision.
the tail that you mentioned.
Right, exactly.
So it would fall on the counties to supervise these 1,000.
It would.
Presuming that happens.
If that happens, unless there's a change in some legislation that it would continue to be
So are
state.
you ready?
You know, our county is. I'm very fortunate in my county that we have a great working relationship with our probation department and our sheriff's department. And probation is really beefed up. Their probation officers, they have them housed at all the police departments as partners. So they are out there, and I truly believe we're ready for that.
Mr. Sniff, the Riverside Sheriff, feels very strongly that we need to move toward prison construction.
I agree.
You agree?
Absolutely.
And so it seems as if both sides of the political spectrum are starting to agree on that.
Yeah.
Where does that happen? What does that look like, and how quickly can it proceed?
Well, it's not going to happen very fast, and I think it's going to have to be driven locally. I've said this over a year ago. We're going to have to build our own local state prison because it's a whole different dynamic than your local county jail. State prisons houses people for long-term with mental illnesses, with health needs.
Those are the 3 years plus.
Those are the 3 years plus we need to build, and then we need to house and staff those with correctional officers.
Well, what about, look, San Bernardino County, the largest geographic county in the lower 48. Looking to have a jail?
I'd love it.
Yeah.
We got a
Jobs.
ton. We got a ton of
a lot
dirt.
of geography.
We got a ton of dirt.
Right.
You know, John Husing said, the economist says that all the time. Hey, they build in San Francisco, we get a ton of dirt. Right. We got a ton of desert. Let's build it.
Okay. His name is Mike Ramos. He is the district attorney for San Bernardino County. My name is Brad Pomerance. You are watching Charter California Edition.